Now, the former Sporting Lisbon coach, Paulo Sergio, has been confirmed as the 9th Hearts manager in 7 years. Let's get live now to Charles Patterson with the latest. Charles?
Yeah, Adam, Paulo Sergio is here at the Hearts training ground just outside Edinburgh. He arrived shortly before 10 o'clock. The players were in before that. They've met and they're currently training as we speak. Now, Vladimir Romanov, the Hearts owner, is also here at the training ground, and we caught up with them all on the training ground as they trained in the rain here in Edinburgh. Vladimir Romanov in his own training kit, would you believe, even emblazoned with his initials. You don't see that very often, the owner of the club turning up for training, watching on. There have been plenty of stories since Vladimir Romanov took over the club about how he picks the team, about how he influences transfer policy, and how he reportedly even takes training sessions. But that's certainly the first time we've ever got a shot of him on the training ground. That's a pretty unique sight. You wouldn't normally see the owner of a club there. But Paulo Sergio taking his first training session. There is a reserve match against Dunfermline taking place this afternoon. And that's behind closed doors, of course. There's no access to that. But we expect to hear from Paulo Sergio later on this afternoon at Tynecastle at a press conference. We may well also hear from Vladimir Romanov. But certainly a new regime is afoot here at Hearts, and it's been a pretty quick turnaround since Jim Jeffries was dismissed yesterday.
And what's the situation with Jim Jeffries? Because he was offered that role of director of football, but he's not going to take it, we understand.
Yeah, that's right. He's turned it down this morning. He went home last night to mull it over. His assistant, Billy Brown, was sacked yesterday. The first-team coach, Gary Locke, his position at the club is still under review. He is still employed by the club, but Jim Jeffries was offered that director of football role. And given his extensive history with the club, having played for the club, 2 managerial spells here, there was certainly probably a part of Jim Jeffries that thought, you know, this could be an option, but he thought it over. He came up to Edinburgh this morning and he has decided against that. So he has left the club now after taking over back in January 2010. Now, the reason that Jim Jeffries and Billy Brown have been removed by Vladimir Romanov, according to him, is due to results. Hearts had not won a game since March. They had a poor end to the last season, even though they finished 3rd in the league, and at the weekend they lost to Dundee United 1-0 at Tynecastle on Sunday. That was only the 2nd league game of the season, of course. They drew at Rangers on the opening day at Ibrox, pretty good result against the champions, and they drew last week over in Hungary in the Europa League qualifying tie. The second leg of that is on Thursday night at Tynecastle, and that will be Paulo Sergio's first game in charge of Hearts. It's a pretty important one, but Jim Jeffries is no longer employed by Hearts Football Club. He's turned down the director of football role. He has left the club, and a new era under the Portuguese coach Paulo Sergio has begun, and we expect to hear from him later on today.
Look forward to it, Charles. Thanks very much. So it's all changed once again. This is the new gaffer, Paulo Sergio. He's 43 years old. He was born in the south of Portugal. He had a 17-year career as a player, playing mostly as a striker for a number of sides across Portugal, and then a spell in France at Grenoble. After retiring in 2003, he went straight into coaching at Olhanense. Sergio spent then time at 4 other clubs before being appointed sporting manager at the end of last season, start of last season. But he would last just 7 months at the club before he was sacked after a string of poor results, and that included elimination by Rangers in the last 32 of the Europa League.
Craig Levein managed Hearts for 4 years, guiding them into Europe in successive seasons. He says Jeffries should have been given more time in the job.
Another manager losing his job. You know, I think we all should be certified insane for doing this job. You know. I don't know, it's a shame, you know. I think Jim's a great manager, and he brought a level of stability back to Hearts. And I think that it's extremely difficult to provide success without stability. And I mean, I don't own a football club. I don't make the decisions at Hearts. But as I say, it's a disappointment for me that we've lost another good manager after a short period of time when he doesn't have enough time to put his ideas into practice.
So Hearts have had a number of managers under Vladimir Romanov. First, there was John Robertson from 2004 to 2005. George Burley replaced him. Hearts were top of the SPL for the first 10 games of the season, but he left after Romanov tried to take full control over the club. Next, there was Graham Rix, but he only lasted at Hearts for 4 months. Valdas Ivanauskas was in temporary charge when they won the Scottish Cup in 2006, beating Gretna on penalties. He was hired on a full-term basis the following season. Then came Anatoly Korobochka. He took over in March 2007, lasted for 33 games, left at the start of 2008. Stephen Frail worked alongside Korobochka, but took full charge at Hearts for the most of the remainder of that year. Csaba Laszlo has served for the longest time under Romanov. He joined them after leaving his job as Uganda manager. He was named Manager of the Year in 2009, but was then sacked in January of last year. And when Jim Jeffries left the club yesterday, he was the 8th manager in 7 years to leave Tynecastle.
It's quite a list. We wish Paulo Sergio well, and we hope to hear from him a little bit later on Sky Sports News. We'll also bring you any transfer